Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next edition of the Lunch and Learn. As you know, Lunch and Learn is here for you. You tell us what you want to learn, and we bring it to you. So today we have something really special. We have a lot of know-how on business modeling. And Noora Buser is a business modeling expert. She'll be telling you all about it today. So take it away, Noora, please.
Thank you so much, Biljana. So welcome from my side as well. Today I'm trying to concise the knowledge I have on business modeling into 1 hour, which is a tiny bit of an exciting challenge for me, because usually when I talk about business modeling, I have a whole day time with the group, or I'm doing an individual coaching. So I will be able to give you a short overview of the business modeling for sure. But if you have very specific individual questions and you are in the Versus Virus Incubator, I am very glad to schedule a session with you afterwards on your specific questions. And you will find me on the Slack channel of the Versus Virus Incubator. So let's get started. Daniel, you can go to the first informatory slide. I think it always helps a little bit to see the content. So I think it will be a few slides further. Here we go. So what is a business model? So this is one definition how you can define a business model. It describes the rationale of how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. And it can be in an economic, social, cultural, or other context. So what this means is actually the business model will work for any type of organization. It doesn't have to be an organization that wants to make profit. So it can also be a non-profit organization. It could actually be even a public organization. So everything that I'm going to tell you today can apply for sure to your project. What is important to know is that business model is not the financial model. So if you're interested in a financial model, this is something different. And if you're interested in financing your business, you can, of course, check the excellent session that Christoph made at the prior Lunch and Learn session. So why should you make a business model? It's in order actually for you yourself to figure out what problem are you really solving and for whom. How are you going to create value to those target groups that you are targeting? How your product or service will get to the customers? How your business will stay competitive, and it will show you all the revenues and costs that you can anticipate. So to me, business model is really like a map of your business. It's mostly it's in the first step, it's really important for you and not so much to other people. It's really for you to understand, hey, what am I doing here, and why, and for whom. So this is basically what a business model is to me, and why it's important to have one, so that you know what are you doing actually. So there and how can you create a business model? There are lots of different ways to do this. If you Google business model, you will most likely find a lot of these canvas models. So there is a business model canvas, lean canvas. Then there are specific canvases for social businesses, for sustainable businesses, and so on and so on. I would say it's a little bit of personal preference which one you pick. My personal preference is definitely the lean canvas. I actually cannot explain exactly why I like it, but I think it has a lot to do with it that it's very intuitive to understand, and it's very simple. So, and you can also apply it to all different kinds of businesses. To give you a little bit background, where does the lean canvas model come from? Let's have a look at the next slide. So it's kind of this whole lean ideology. You have probably heard about lean management, companies like Toyota applying it, Six Sigmas, and here the idea was to simplify the business processes and activities to the max. So really the idea of reducing to the max, trying to become efficient through this minimizing and simplifying processes. Then there is a great book from Eric Ries. He's talking about lean startup. So how can you create your business as lean as possible? So really using the principle of minimizing to the max. And then there is a book, Running Lean, which is really representing this lean canvas idea. So if you're interested in reading more and getting more into the detail, you can also have a look at these resources. But this is just to give you the idea where it's coming from, what I'm going to talk about. This is an example I like. You probably know the movie Terminator. So this is, I don't know, I think this is from the third movie, Robot. And you could ask, like, why does this robot have teeth? Because they are not supposed to bite anyone, and robots don't need to eat. So why did the designer put the teeth on the robot? It's kind of a bit maybe waste of time to design the teeth. It's a waste of resources to put the teeth in place if you don't really need them. So this is just an example how this lean ideology can be applied on the actual product. But it can also be applied in your business. Maybe to give you one more very important principle before we look at the actual business model design, is that you should always start with the problem. And many people tend to fall in love with the solution. So they have an idea and they are really passionate in realizing this idea. But they might get a little lost on the way, because an idea is actually not worth of much if nobody really needs this, if it's not a solution to an existing problem. So the lean ideology is based on that you always start with the problem. You need to identify what is the problem, who has the problem, and then you start moving on to the direction how to solve the problem. And why is this? It's because there can be so many different solutions to one problem, and the most innovative companies, they also don't stick to one solution. They maybe keep the problem, or even, of course, the problem can also change a little bit over years. But even if you have really the same problem, you can provide different solutions to it. When the technology develops, for example, you can provide a better solution. So this, if you don't remember anything else from today, it's just fall in love with your problem and not the solution, and you're already well off. So this beautiful and a little bit complicated picture would be the lean business model canvas. I don't go to detail here yet. We will have a look at each section, but I will give you a rough idea how this map of your business works. So as you can see on the left-hand side, you start with the problem. Next to the problem, you have the solution. It's really closely related to the problem. That's why they are also close to each other on this canvas. You have the key metrics. These are basically to control little bit if you are providing a good solution to the problem. And then on the right hand side, you have customer segments. So who is your customer? To whom are you developing the solution. So the main question is, which problem are you solving, to whom, and how? And the goal of filling this canvas is to be able to give a really good answer to this question. So we can move on and have a look at the individual parts a little bit. Oh, I wanted to mention first that this lean canvas, it works really for different kind of businesses. Many concepts, many words that are used, also which I'm going to use today, refer often to this hardcore business and making money maybe and so on. But if we talk about value, we can also talk about not only the monetary value, but we can also talk about social value or environmental value. This is called these days a triple bottom line. So when these concepts were developed, it was often just the mindset that, okay, we want to create money, and usually as much as possible, and as efficiently as possible. And these days also many businesses that are that want to create profit are also starting to focus more on also creating social value or environmental value. But even if the environmental value is your main target, you should not forget the monetary value. So no matter what solution you are providing, you need to have a way to finance it, right? And you need to create value to someone. So you will always have a target group. Maybe you don't call them customers, maybe you call them something else, but you will always have the same structure. Actually, we can go back to the slide that you showed before. So here is the lean canvas, which is adapted to social businesses. So if you Google this social lean canvas, you will find the template. And here, actually all parts are exactly the same. You just have at the top, you have the purpose. So this is really the why of the company. Actually, I would apply this even to for-profit companies, to think about why do I want to do this? Why am I trying to solve this problem? And the impact. So I'm not going to talk a lot about impact today, because there was also a great lunch and learn session already on impact measurement, and there everything is explained in much detail. But just as a takeaway, that yes, you can really apply this canvas model for different types of organizations without a problem. On the next slide, there is also a few examples how you can interpret the lean canvas for your nonprofit project. So there, next to the problem, there are key partners also mentioned. So I would not replace problem with key partners. I would just add the key partners, because often when you have a social um, a social company or idea, you need to work, you need to collaborate with others. So you are not there alone. You usually have some kind of multi-sided model, and your solution is probably not a product, but it's some kind of activity. So you are creating an activity to support someone. So these are the differences, and of course in the cost and revenue streams at the bottom of the bottom line of this canvas. You talk about value streams instead of cost. In the end, it's kind of same, because if you invest in the people, they need to use their time in order to realize something. So in the end, you will anyways have some kind of cost. And in the revenue streams, it's also about the returns of the value stream. So this is maybe not monetary value that you get back, but maybe you manage to have more healthy people, or you manage to get more kids to the school, or whatever is your goal that you're aiming at. So you have to kind of balance a little bit, not focusing only on the monetary aspect, but also on the social and environmental, depending on your organization and your goals, of course. Okay, so this as a general input. We can go into each section of the lean business model canvas. So when we start with the problem, you should list maximum 3 problems that you want to address. So if you start to have like a huge list of problems, then you are so quickly lost, because then you don't know anymore what you are doing, and it's very hard to say to whom you are doing it, and that makes it very hard to develop the solution. So list problems that your potential customers or target group has or may have. So don't just list like whatever problems. And then also what is very important to think regarding the problem is to always have kind of this second guessing. So we often say like, "Oh, I think this is a really big problem that many people have," but then you notice suddenly that, okay, what is exactly the problem? So I know we have one project in this incubator. They want to solve the problem that when I go to a building now in corona times, I don't know, it's more for public spaces, obviously. I don't know what are the behavior rules, like do I have to wear a mask, do I not have to wear a mask, how many people are allowed to in, and so on and so on. So they say, so in this case they try to solve the problem. Okay, too many people don't know what they're doing. And then I would ask, okay, why is that a problem? Then you could say, oh, well, because if the people don't follow the rules, we might get more infections. So, okay, that's a valid problem for me. Maybe if I'm very critical, I would ask again, why is that the problem? Well, then we go often to very deep moral questions, but it's good to think about this, like try to ask 5 times again and again, why is this really a problem? And then at some point you notice that you come to the root cause. So we in this case, the really root cause would be that, hey, people they do want to avoid spreading the disease, so they need to know how to behave in public spaces. So this is I have a problem of not knowing it, and this company wants to solve my problem. You can also think about it from the customer perspective, in a way of asking like, what is the job to be done? So job is not the exact right word to describe it, but what is meant by it is that, okay, what does this person want to reach? So in this case I described a situation where the people feel insecure, and what are they trying to reach there? They just want to feel safe, and they don't want to cause other people harm when they go to public places. So that is kind of the job to be done. But what is else is related to this? Okay, these people want to get to the hairdresser. They want to go to the hairdresser without putting themselves and other people in danger. So this is kind of, somebody is trying always to reach something, and the better you understand this, the better you are going to be able to really drill down to your problem. And a small note to the problem is also to look at alternative solutions. So there are probably already existing solutions. Now, in the case of COVID, maybe not, because it was very unique and first time experience, but there might be something quite similar. So, for example, this project in the incubator, they already have a company that is creating something for events. So they are actually already tracking in events how people are moving. So they can learn from this similar experience and take it into a new solution. So this is also a small tip. that often by looking at existing solutions and applying them to a new context, you can make great innovation. So this is actually the easiest insider tip of creating an innovation. Just take a great existing solution and apply it in a different context. This is another example. I'm going to use this throughout the presentation. Wider, it's the company is called. So they identified a problem that there are lots of people who don't maybe have lots of money, but they want to have some nice individualized, unique art on their walls. So they don't want to go to IKEA because I mean, like 5 of their friends have the same picture on the wall. They really want to see something unique and artistic, but they don't have money to go to Sotheby's, like to these auctions. So where should they get some nice pictures to their walls? That was a problem that they wanted to address. I'm going to explain to you more about how they solved the problem later on. But after you have really understood your problem, you need to think who has the problem. So you need to identify the target customers of your business model. So why it's important to focus on early adopters. These are the people who are most likely to use or most likely to have the problem and most likely to use your solution. So in the case of Wider, this could be I mean, maybe some young people who earn okay, maybe even students. They don't have too much money, but students are maybe a little bit artsy. Could be something. And then you need to list the characteristics of this early adopter group, so the most likely group to have this problem. And this you can do by using, for example, personas. This is something that I'm not going to have time to go deep into today, but you can Google it. There are lots of online resources on creating personas, or maybe we even do a lunch and learn session on that if that's a need on your side. But what is very important to note is that start with the early adopters, so the most likely users. And the second is when you have identified more customer segments, make a lean canvas for each of them, because each customer segment is very likely to have a different problem. That is important to take away. So this framework might help you to understand your customers better. So you can look for factual information, go to Google, talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, whoever, try to figure out as many facts as possible to understand who is your customer, because you want to understand their pain. So pain is kind of the problem actually that we are talking about. And then you need to start to understand their behavior. I already mentioned this job to done. So everybody's trying to reach something, but how is your target group doing it currently? So in the example of Wider, it could be that the people at the moment, they still go to IKEA because they don't have any better solutions, or maybe they ask their friends to make pictures for them. Maybe they just keep white walls, so they really have this problem and they are super sad at home because they don't have these nice pictures. But really try to understand, okay, how are these people behaving when they try to find a nice picture, and what motivates them to start looking for a picture. And once you have understood this, you can start developing a solution that fits to their needs. And yeah, I mean, the goal in the end is, with any solution, you want to help the people to solve their problem and to reach their goals. So if my goal is to have a beautiful home with lots of beautiful paintings on the wall, think about how can I help this person to reach this. And another tip is for especially now in your project, because they might be very unique, and the problem is quite new, and there might not be existing solutions. So think about something similar again. So in the case of Wider, it could be also, because they started to think about, okay, could something like online be a solution? Okay, there is nothing online yet for arts, but there are for other things. So does my target group go online and look for Nike shoes, for example? How do they do that? And then try to analyze how is this process, and think about if you can learn something from this process to your own solution. So now we know what is the problem and who has the problem and what are their behaviors. So now we can try to create a clear message why we are so different from everybody else who already tries to solve this problem, and why should they pay for us for it, or why should they collaborate with us on this if it's a non-profit. So it's really about what makes you unique. What is quite useful is if you can come up with a catchy slogan or analogy for this kind of high level concept. So what is it really about? If you can capture it in one sentence, you are really far already. If you can capture in one sentence what makes you unique, then you are well off. So Wider says that they are a Tinder for art. So I think it's quite good hint already. You know exactly already what to expect. So you expect some kind of exchange, and maybe swiping right and left, or something like this, but it already gives you an idea, and it's about art. So it really captures the core of why they are unique. So now we are ready to come to the solution. So after all these steps, you only should start to think about the actual solution. So how do you want to solve the problem? You should start by listing the top 3 features of your solution. Of course, it's not so easy to find the 3 most important ones, because you probably have so many ideas and you want to add this and this, and this would be so nice. But then if you have a huge list of features, it's going to be very difficult to find what are the most or what you should focus on, because now you have to develop some sort of solution, and it's hard to develop a minimum viable product if you don't know what are the key features. So of course, in this figuring out the key features, you can also then go again and try to understand what is important to your customer if you can't prioritize it on your own. So what is a minimum viable product? I think most of you know it by now. Um, let's have a look at the example on the next slide.
Nevertheless, I'm sorry, Noora, can you please clarify for those who don't know what a minimum viable product
Yes,
is?
sure.
Thank you.
I think that this example is going to help. So let's say that you have a problem. Your customer or somebody comes to you and says like, oh, I have to walk 2 hours to work every day, and I never have time to spend with my family, and sometimes I have so many things with me to carry, and I'm like so exhausted every day. So you say, okay, my solution would be to provide you a faster way to go to work. What could be the key features? Yeah, some wheels maybe could be. If you look at the example on the top, if you provide one wheel to this person, they are not going to be very happy. If you provide them 2 wheels with an axe or axle, I'm not sure about these terms in the mechanics, they are still not happy. They don't get faster to work. You provide them something that looks a little bit like a car, but there is no steering wheel, so they are still like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? And then you provide them the ready car, and then they are happy. But you have kind of lost a lot of time here, and you have lost the customer probably. They are not gonna stay with you through all these trials and errors that you are making, because you started kind of with the wrong feature at the beginning. So how you want to do it is to think about, okay, what is really the minimum that my customer would need in order to get faster to work. There needs to be some two wheels, but something to connect them. Okay, something like a board, whatever is this roller board, skateboard type of thingy. Okay, they are still a bit like suspicious. I'm not sure if this helps. It takes like almost the same time to go to work. I'm still totally exhausted. So you say, hey, come on, I provide you this steering thingy. So it's a kickboard. How about that? They can go a bit faster. They're like, it's kind of okay, but it's still not fast enough. Can you do something else? Then you are like, oh, okay, let's try a bike. Try a bike. They go and take the bike, and they are like, for some time they are happy again, but they start to want more, and they are like, oh, yeah, I would be so happy if I could go even faster to work, because I start liking this. I have already more time with my children. And then you are like, oh, let's add a motor on it. So now it's a motorcycle. Now we can go fast. And then your customer is like so happy, like, now finally I have so much time to spend with my family. And then you actually think about, but he still cannot go for groceries on the way home, because he has no place to put his groceries, and sometimes he has some other big packages with him. So you say, let's make a big car where he can put everything in. And then your customer is so happy, because now they can go fast, and they can have even their children in the car sometimes, and they can have the groceries and everything, and you have solve the problem. But if you would have tried to go directly to the car, to develop a car, you would have needed a lot of resources, time and money to develop it. And in the meantime, your customer might have gone to, first of all, to someone else. In even the worst case, you might have developed a solution, a car that nobody wants, and you have just wasted all the time and effort on the way. So this is the whole concept of minimum viable product. So try to figure out really the minimum requirements that your customer needs, or your target group needs, and then start building from there. This is going to save lots of time and effort. You are going to learn all the time, and in the end, through all these iterations, you're going to be able to provide exactly that product that your customer needs, and maybe even more. Maybe they didn't even think about that the car could solve their problems. Maybe they didn't even believe that it exists. But because you learned on the way so much about their behavior and feedback, you were able to provide something really unique. We can move on. Yeah, so what was the solution of Wider then? So they decided to make this really, they called it the Tinder for art. So an app which is open access. The people who create art, they can post their art pieces there, and those who want to buy the art can scroll there and look at the art and find the pieces that they want. So they solved the problem, not actually only to those people who want to find unique art, but they also solved the problem for those who are creating art but don't have a platform where to sell it. So of course these are not the highest paying artists, but there are tons of great artists in the world who maybe do it as a hobby, or haven't just reached the highest level. So they also gained an access to a platform where they can find customers. So sometimes you can even several problems at once. Then you have your, the problem, you know who has the problem, and you have a solution. Now it's the time to think about how can I measure if I'm doing the right thing and if it's really working. There are lots of vanity metrics, they are called. These are especially typical in digital solutions these days. So maybe wider, they might, for example, measure how many people are using the platform. Nice number, they have this and this many people, but maybe nobody is doing the actual transaction there. So if nobody is buying the art from an artist, they actually didn't manage to solve the problem. So they should focus on the number of transactions, for example, as a KPI, as a key performance indicator. And then a big question is often for startups. So, okay, what is then relevant in general for a startup? What could be KPIs? And there are actually quite a few basic ones that everybody can have a look at on the next slide. So these are startup metrics. The first one is acquisition. So how do users find you? So how many kind of people know that you exist? Then the activation. So how do the users like it when they have the first interaction with your solution? Then you come to the retention. So if they came once, are they coming back again? So are they going to have a second interaction with you? And then, of course, in most models, it's about, do you then actually make money? I mean, it can also be if it's a non-profit, do you create the interaction that you wanted to create? Can you complete the activity that was your goal? This would be then the revenue or the impact, maybe you could also say. And then do users refer to? So do they tell others, hey, actually, I know this great non-profit organization. I am sponsoring the school for a kid in Nepal. I think they are doing a great job. You should also join. So this is really the highest level. Then you really know that your solution is to your it's solving the problem of your target group. So it's really a good solution to the problem that you wanted to solve. Then, of course, you have to think about how you reach out to your customers. So there are many ways to find, there are free ways to reach out to customers. There are paid channels. I mean, these days, I think most businesses have some digital elements. So you have a website, maybe you have a blog. Website is rather cheap to build up, depending on your requirements. And if you write a blog, in theory, it's for free. But of course, it costs some time. Then you have paid channels like paid advertisement. I mean, it can be in a newspaper, it can be on the street placard, it can be online. But you should again start from analyzing how your customers behave. So to understand where are they kind of moving around. Was it in a physical space or in a digital space? So where are your customers and what are they doing during their daily lives? And different customer segments may have different channels. It's quite common actually. So if you think about a solution that you can provide, let's say mask, you provide masks, there you will have some kids who are using it, you will have old people, you will have something in between, you will have some maybe healthcare professionals even. These customer segments, they are going to hear, they are moving in totally different spaces and they are going to hear about your product in a very different way. So an older person who has to pick up their medicine every week from the pharmacy might say that okay, yeah, they see it in the your advertisement in the pharmacy, and they find out about you in this way. Maybe a younger kid is using a TikTok app or something, and find out about your product there. So you have to really again try to merge yourself into the role of your customer or user. Then we come to the bottom line of the business model. So now you basically know what you are doing, for whom, and how. Now this is to me kind of the detail of how. So cost, when you want to produce a mask, you definitely need some raw materials, you need personnel, and yeah, this is time, you need some logistics and so on and so on. So these are the costs that you have. And then you have to think about the difference between the fixed and variable cost. So fixed cost is typically something like a rent that you have to pay every month, or maybe you say that in order to survive, I always have to have this much of some resource. I don't know, the materials for the mask. So you always have this bulk cost every month to keep up your stock. But you can have variable costs. So it could be when the demand goes up, you need to add on something, maybe more personnel or hours from your own side. It can be advertisement cost. Sometimes you make a campaign, so the advertisement cost goes up. So it's very helpful to separate between this. Also, when you think about the financial model that we don't talk about today, and then the other side is the revenue. So you have some kind of input because you put it into your project, and then you have something that you gain through it. So if you are a for-profit company, it's usually the paying customers. So how do you earn money? I already mentioned some kind of, well, have mentioned the ways how you can create it. There are some typical ways to earn money. I mean, the traditional way is a person buys a product and they use it and you never hear about them again. These days, there are much more variety in the models. So a freemium model is one very common one used by several companies. So you probably know Spotify. So on Spotify, you can use it for free, but you get advertisement. But if you pay, you get the premium version without the advertisement. So this is one typical way. You can have a subscription model, so you pay every month something in order to use the service. I mean, also Spotify, Netflix, you have different kinds of models. You can also have a pay per use model, which is quite common these days. For example, you don't buy a car anymore often if you live in a city, but you use one of an existing car fleets, and you pay always when you need the car. So there are also subscription models, but these are really, it's really useful to think about the different alternatives and then find the way that fits your business. um, and if you are a non-profit, the revenue would be something, I mean, well, you need some money once again, but it can be a third party who is financing everything. But you need to think about still who is getting value from your service and what is the value that you are creating. So this is the value stream. I believe also there was this discussion already in the impact measurement session. So how to think about in steps who gets the value, what is the output, and what is the impact. So then you kind of try to balance it out with, okay, if I use this many hours of my day meeting potential partners, and the outcome is maybe I get one partner per 5 hours of talk, is it really worth it, and does it help me to gain my end goal, which would be maybe to provide a platform for school kids that they can learn home during the corona. But I want to provide the platform for free, so I don't get money from the kids, I get the money from somewhere else. But I really still want to think about where are my costs and what do I gain when I give this input. Maybe not the best example, but you can ask me afterwards another one if you didn't understand this point. Okay. Then this is not something you should focus on. Unfair advantage. Sometimes they talk about competitive advantage in business. This is something that you usually develop over time. So maybe you have it already. Great. Many have something like network, like personal network. If it's very, very valuable to your business, it could be an unfair advantage at the beginning already. But the business related unfair advantage usually it evolves over time, and you often don't have it at the beginning. So it's just going to be something that others have hard time copying. So sometimes it can be the best organizational model maybe that attracts the best workers to your company. And it's very hard to copy an organizational model because it's really related to the history of the company, of the people who have worked there, and so on and so on. So this is something that you don't have to worry too much about at the beginning. Here is coming to an end. The example of the wider, I don't know if you can exactly read the slide, but it's not really relevant, the content, because we already discussed about it, and you can imagine what might be in each slot here. But here the important thing is that wider has two canvases. So this one is for the buyers. So I already mentioned who is their customer, those who don't want to buy cheap art from IKEA, but they don't have money for the expensive art, but they want nice pictures to their walls. So these are their buyers. And their problem is that they don't find these pictures, right? If we look at the next slide, we have another canvas, and this is for the artists. So those who create art and want to sell it. And their problem is totally different. So they actually don't have access to galleries, maybe because it's very selective. They don't have really a platform to market their art, and don't have a way to get to the customers. So it's often that the different segments, so wider is a platform solution. If you ever heard this word, this means that it's kind of two sides. So you are offering something to both groups, and you bring them together on a platform where they both gain benefits. So this is a typical example, but even if you don't have a platform solution, you might have two very different customer segments, and they might have a different problem. So you should really think about what elements in your canvas change. Obviously, your unique value proposition should not change, because this is the unique value proposition. So this is what makes you unique. So this should be the same for all customer segments, but in other parts you might have some slight changes. These question marks here are to show you that these are all assumptions, as long as you go out and test it. So you can have the best business model and everybody says, "Oh, I love it, it's great, I love this idea and you should really do it." But you are not gonna know if it works until you test it. And you should try to test this by developing your MVP as lean as possible. So by using the minimal effort in order to start getting real customer inputs. And then you start to understand what works and what not. We started a little late, so actually we are out with the time, but I hope you have a few moments still. Just for a closing, I want to give you another input on hypothesis testing. There is also a lunch and learn session on user testing, so there were some similar insights, but maybe not all of you saw it yet. And just also as a reminder, so what I mean that they are all assumptions. So they are based on hypotheses. We expect that it is like this, but we don't know. So for wider, their assumption, the main overall assumption was that to fill a white wall, people will pay to buy inexpensive art online from unknown artists. So this is for their solution to work. This is the main argument why they believe that this is a good solution. But this you need to break a little bit into parts. So first assumption is white wall. First assumption. So actually, this is the most risky assumption, because if nobody has this problem of filling their walls with nice art, their solution, nobody needs it, right? So they have to test this. Then they talk about people. So who are these people? How can they identify those people? They will, the third one is that they will pay us. So are the people really ready to pay for art online? Actually, there was an app developed by Instagram and Art Zolo in India, and this worked. So this was already validated. No need to validate again. Um, and the next assumption is that the price matters, because they think that they don't want to pay too much, this customer group. This is also validated by eBay. I mean, on eBay, they have tested all kinds of things already based on pricing, so validated. Then do people really want to buy from an unknown artist, or do they want to have from someone who they know? Already validated by IKEA, because people do buy these paintings or wall art which don't have a name on it. So you have to kind of figure out what is my main assumption and break it into parts and think about which parts have already been tested on the market and which are the parts that I still need to go out and test. So yeah, it's a process of building something up, measuring it, learning from it, breaking it apart again, and building it up again in a better way, or taking a piece out and looking at it and then refining it and putting it again together. What is interesting in the business model canvas is that when you change one part, you notice that you have to change all the other parts as well. So but I think it's a really, really nice way to present your business in a simple way. And this is actually the end of my presentation, but I got the question from Martin already. What is the easiest way to make a business plan? And to me, it's make the canvas for yourself. You don't have to go showing it around to investors. You can show it to your friends, colleagues, customers, anyone you want feedback from. But if you want to look for funding, you just make one slide per box on the canvas, and that's it. You just need the pitch deck, which tells what problem am I solving for whom. And the information that most funders and investors want to know, of course, this depends a lot on the target group. You should also check the lunch and learn on funding. But they're looking for information often like the size of the market, for example. So how many people belong to your early adopter group, or the total size of market. So there are like lots of tips and tricks also on pitching. Actually, we have already decided to make a session on pitching as well. I don't know when it's gonna be, but the pitch deck is the business plan of today. And the most important slides are actually each of the building blocks of this business canvas. Martin, does this answer your question from the beginning? Great. I think we can have a few questions if you want, because we started a little bit late. Of course, if you have to go, I understand. But now you have a chance to ask questions. Or did we have some question, Biljana, from the beginning that I forgot already?
No, we didn't have, and there have been no questions in the chat box so far. However, Miguel says, thanks, Noora, very comprehensive and clarifying.
Okay, so it was so clear that there are no questions. I love that. But Miguel, you actually had some question at the beginning. Was this answered? Are you there, Miguel? Okay. So
yes, I'm here. Yes, it did answer. So the once having validated those assumptions, written them out and validated them, then it becomes easy to write the business plan. Or, well, actually, just to write a pitch deck, which is the business plan.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Any other questions for Noora while we still have her? If there are no more questions, then I'm just checking if anybody's in the process of unmuting yourselves. No. So as you heard, the business plan or the business pitch is the business plan of today. Thank you very much, Noora, for this very inspiring and very clear presentation. As all of you noticed, Noora did mention something, the unique value proposition. And we decided that next week we are going to have somebody called Peter Horvath, that you already know maybe from the Versus Virus hackathon. He will be telling you and giving you the secrets on how to create or how to find your unique value proposition. So please join us next Friday to discover with Peter how to do this. And of course, as usual, Peter is open to all your questions. I will be posting on Monday his email so that you can send him directly his questions, and he'll be able to target his presentation exactly to your needs. I think this is all from us for today. Once again, thank you very much, Noora. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And we'll see you next time, next Friday. Goodbye.